State of West Bengal versus Rajiv Mehra, and the team presenting the case is for 17 prosecution and 3 defense. And the opening statement will be given by team 17, and they may start with the permission of the judges.
With your permission, may I begin, Lordship? Thank you so much. Lordship, this is yet another case that we are facing here today.
Sorry to interrupt.
Okay. May I begin, yes, sir? Thank you. Sir, here it is yet another case where a young girl's life has been taken away because of the mere greed that the in-laws had been inbuilt in them, and this has resulted in another girl's life being taken because of societal pressure. Here, Your Lordship, we are presenting 3 issues. Sir, ma'am, we are presenting 3 issues. The first one being 498A, which is cruelty, and 306 of IPC, which is abetment of suicide, and 304B, which is dowry death. Before I move on to the issues, I would like to give you a little pretext of why exactly these issues are coming into context in the first place. And I would like to begin by saying that in the year 2018, Bajrang Singh, our client, decided it's time to get his daughter married, and he found a family of Rajiv Mehra who was a little above his social structure, simply because of the reason that he thought that the happiness and the luxury that he could not give his daughter, him being like a person who's just a normal stationery shop owner, that is why he decided to get his daughter married to a person a little above in the economic strata. This, he thought, in the initial stages, there was no demand of dowry, so he thought it was a normal marriage proposal. But just before, a few days before the marriage, solemnization of the marriage, that happened on 24th of April 2018, the defense asked for dowry. And it was straightforward, a sense of asking. They said that without the dowry, there would be no solemnization of the wedding at all. Here, Bajrang Singh was left with no choice, simply because he could not accommodate and could not allow his daughter's life to get ruined, and he did not want his societal impression also to be reduced. So, with a lot of problems, him being a mere stationery shop owner, he accommodated the money, which was asked to be exactly 10 lakh rupees in cash, and augmented with gold accessories with it, which he further gave on the day of the solemnization, handed it over to Rajiv Mehra. I would also like to point out the victim here, the deceased, was in nowhere aware of this transaction being made even before the wedding, but was told about it afterward. We would assume that then the abuse would be stopped, but it wasn't. It was simply because they wanted more. The greed of these individuals never stopped. They wanted more money. They wanted to, have a greater amount of pressure being built on Bajrang. But here Bajrang did not have any more money left with him, and the simple reason that he said he can't give. Therefore started the never-ending process of abuse. I would like to point out abuse was in both cruelty, mental torture and physical abuse as well. There were constant strains of physical torture, which will be proving through our witnesses' statements, and there was also mental torture because of continuous in nature throughout the 5 years that they had been together. And next coming to the point that after this led to a situation that Yashika believed that after a child was born, the things would be better. But it did not happen. Simultaneously, the cruelty increased, and on the sad occasion of 17 December, she drank poison. Here, now the defendants were scared. They were scared because now Bajrang Singh had gone to the police and filed a report against them, claiming that they were asking for dowry, and that is why Yashika had done what she had done. But now the defendants realized this was the time to play safe. So they did not go to the victim's father, but went to the victim themselves and tried to coerce her into agreeing to come back and living with them, simply through an emotional structure being built, and also along with the fact that she had a child in place who they said that if they come back, they would be able to provide them with a better life. Yashika decided to give her marriage a second try, which was, I accept, Your Lordship, a wrong thing to do, as Bajrang Singh was not at all in favor of it, because he knew that this would continue. But anyway, Yashika went to the police, She refrained her statement and said that she drank the poison accidentally, and she also was coerced by the in-laws to specifically say there was no physical abuse. Moving along, she went and started living, and after a first 2 weeks, there was an instance of physical abuse, after which the defendants claimed that they were going to file a divorce against them if this did not stop. So they completely decided it's time to stop the physical abuse. But did the mental cruelty stop, sir? It did not. It went on, and to the extent that even on the occasion, or in the sad occasion of 14th April 2022, when Yashika finally decided she could not take it anymore, that morning also she was subjected to cruelty by her mother-in-law through verbal abuse, through continuous pressurization, and telling her that she was not needed in their life and she was causing problem. Now coming to the issues, sir. The first issue of abatement of suicide. We are very well aware of the fact that the two most important factors that we need to think is the instigation or persuasion. And there was constant instigation. And what was the intention behind this instigation, sir? The intention was very clear. They wanted money, they were not getting money, and therefore the need for Yashika in their life was no more anymore. They would like to get her out of her life, their life, and which would result in her being removed completely. And therefore, this was a continuous process. This was a process that lasted till the very unfortunate incident on the day when she finally committed suicide through burning. Coming to the second issue, which is of dowry death. So, it is very clear that there are some main ingredients that we need to fulfill for it to be a dowry death. And here, all these ingredients are being fulfilled by the defense. Firstly, it was the death of a woman that had occurred. Secondly, the death was of unnatural cause or burn. And here, Yashika had committed suicide by burning herself. And third point, it was within 7 years. The marriage was only 5 years, and it was definitely within the framework of dowry death. Next, it is very clearly mentioned in this statute that there has to be any form of cruelty committed towards some right soon before the death of the person. And we have very well been trying to prove to you, Honor, that the cruelty had happened the very morning. Like the last instance the defense had actually seen Yashika, they had caused a cruelty towards her. Therefore, giving us the exact direct connection between both the parties. And lastly, the cruelty has to be done by husband and the relatives of the husband, like the mother and the sister-in-law and the brothers in this case, who had been constantly doing this just because they thought they wanted money out of Yashika. And as she belonged to a poorer family, and they were scared of how the defense were a socially uplifted family, they would not be able to hold their case in court and they would lose, which would result in Yashika further being tortured, which they did not want to do, and that was what fear they were using against the prosecution. And lastly, the cruelty which was supposed to happen because of dowry demands. It is very clear that dowry has already been taken, sir. So therefore, the demands that they are making right now also stand very clear into its place, that we will be proving through circumstantial evidences that we will bring to the court through our witnesses who have claimed and have proved that they have given dowry before and the dowry demands were never ending. And coming to my last point, 498A, which was of cruelty. We are very well aware that this statute clearly states that cruelty can be both physical and mental in nature, and especially as said by, in the case of P. Rathina versus Gankar, it was clearly mentioned mental cruelty is also a subject form of cruelty prevalent. Therefore, I would like to further move with the point and say that it is very evidently physical abuse was there, which will be proved by our witnesses Uma Devi, the mother, and Bajrang Singh as well, because they had seen marks. Along with the fact that mental cruelty was constant because the neighbors were not really inside the house ever but could hear the communications happening from outside continuously have told in their testimonies that yes, there was a constant strained relationship. And we are very well aware of the fact that the rest of the family, all of them have created testimonies together. They are all in together trying to point out Yashika's singularity. So we can also assume therefore this was also a prevalent notion in the family. The rest of the family was continuously targeting Yashika in singularity, making her feel like she did not belong in the family, making her feel that she was less than them and they did not need her anymore. And here I would just like to finish my argument by bringing out a few arbitrary character assassinating statements that defense has brought in their memorial. Firstly, they have came and said that Yashika was mentally insane. She was insane, and they have clearly said that she was not mentally sound. And therefore, because she was not mentally sound, it's a voidable marriage, sir. Sir, it required them 5 years to realize this, that it was a voidable marriage. Along with the fact, when in the first place, if they thought it was a voidable marriage, and that is why dowry cannot be accepted. So that means, are they trying to come to the court with hands and saying if it was a valid marriage, dowry would be allowed? Along with the fact, I would also like to bring it to your notice that they have also said that Yashika, she had come up with the concept saying that how can she commit suicide if she was mentally stable while she was thinking about her child? Here comes the point. The child was not even there in the house. She cared about the child, sir. That is why she had already sent the child to her mother's house, who they were sure would take care of the child, because they were the people in the first place who had paid for the expenses during her pregnancy, when the family, apparently so well-to-do and so established that they don't need dowry, were not even able to pay for that. Coming to my next point, here they have claimed that because of these trivial matters of fight that Yashika used to bring, Rajiv was apparently very disturbed. But I would also like to point out, if he was disturbed and he wanted Yashika to take a separation, why didn't he? Why wouldn't he go to the court and say, I can't live with her anymore? The simple reason, because they thought they can still extract money from her. Coming to my last point and my most important fact of this case, ma'am, that they were saying that she was spendthrift. She used to spend a lot of money. Where did she get this money? She was a housemaker. She used to live in the house. She never had any scope of earning. Nor her father gave her any money, nor the husband. Where is this money that they're claiming? Is this the money that they are claiming that she was spending was the one they accepted from the dowry? Because it is clearly stated by Bajrang Singh that in no way had he ever given any money to Yashika at all, in any form, let alone open a sweet shop or even as a gift, because how could he? He has already given all he had to them in the form of dowry, which they forced them to. And their last claim was that why didn't the same happen to the elder sister-in-law in the family who was also there? The simple reason was that she was at the same social structure as these people were, same social level. Therefore, when she was asked for the dowry, her father happily gave it, thinking it to be a gift. Because for him, it was not that much of a monetary loss that he would be acquiring. But here for Bajrang Singh, it was him having to go to the next extent to get this money into context in the first place. Therefore, making Sushila Mehra an acquaintance or a part of this crime in the first place. Because here she was trying to establish she was also superior than her sister-in-law. Therefore, clearly claiming to the point that therefore, whatever the case defense is bringing is far less to the factual needs that we have been proving to you, Your Lordship. Thank you.
The court may begin with the chief examination by prosecution team.
Sir? Absolutely, sir. May I proceed, sir?
Just one guidance that we one piece of guidance so that next time so you have the other side's memorial with you.
Yes.
You have known from there what are the specific issues of fact and law which they have addressed. So we would request here when you will be addressing specifically on their points, draw our reference on the basis of their memorial to that particular point and then give your answer to that.
I apologize. I didn't
No, it's just the system which I think it would be convenient for us because we have not gone through your memorial.
Absolutely. I'm really sorry for the inconvenience.
Just follow this.
May I proceed, sir? Thank you. I I would like to call my first witness, father of the deceased, Bajrang Singh. May I proceed, sir? Thank you. Sir, would you please introduce yourself to the court?
I am Bajrang Singh, father of the deceased Yashika Singh.
And can you tell me what is your occupation?
I own a stationery shop.
And why did you choose Rajiv Mehra as a son-in-law?
So Rajiv Mehra is a very well-established and an influential businessman, and he has a very well-established steel manufacturing business. Now I come from a very middle-class background, and I couldn't give my daughter the luxury that I have always wanted to. So I felt that getting her married to such a wealthy family I can give what I couldn't give my daughter, the happy life.
And sir, can you please also tell us, was there any demand for dowry?
Yes, there was.
When?
3 days before the marriage.
If there was a demand of dowry, why did you go forward with the marriage, sir?
They asked for dowry 3 days before the marriage, and I couldn't afford to break my daughter's marriage because you know what the Indian society is like. Like nobody would marry my daughter after that. So I succumbed to social pressure and I agreed to give the dowry.
Did Yashika know about it?
Yashika came to know about it only after her marriage. We didn't tell her anything before the marriage.
Point to be noted, sir, that dowry was given and it was not at all given to Yashika. It was given to the in-laws, the Mehras, as a form of dowry and not anything else. Did Yashika ever want to open a sweet shop?
Never. She always wanted to be a housewife and take care of her family.
Sir, in their memorial, they have addressed the problem. In their memorial, in the arguments, they have claimed in the memorial of defense, page number.
Just one second. Can you give me one copy of their memorial? The organizing committee.
Shall I continue, sir? In the page number 8 of the defense memo, under the point of the sub-issue whether Rajiv and his family have committed dowry as defined in the Section 2 of Dowry Prohibition Act 1961, they have claimed that the money was given by Bajrang Singh to Yashika for starting a sweet shop. Here, as testimony of the father himself, that there wasn't any intention of her to open a sweet shop in the first place, and the money was not given to her. Moving along, from where did you arrange the money?
So I sold my land in my village and somehow I arranged 10 lakhs cash and gave them some gold.
After the marriage, did Yashika go to her in-laws' house?
Yes.
What happened after that?
After that, regularly she used to call me or my wife and cry to us that she was always being subjected to physical and mental abuse. So that was a regular thing.
And what did you do about it?
So both me, myself and my wife, we tried to talk to her in-laws and negotiate and convince them not to torture our daughter. But the in-laws were very adamant and they clearly stated that unless we bring them money, they are not going to negotiate at any point.
What happened on 17 December?
On 17 December, I got a call from my son-in-law, that is Mr. Rajiv Mehra, and he told me that my daughter had consumed poison, but fortunately she survived. Both myself and my wife, we were furious, and we took our daughter back to our home.
And what happened after that?
After that, we were very angry, and we filed a police complaint immediately.
And did the Mehras come to you after that?
Of course, they came to us. They wanted to negotiate and wanted us to take the complaint back, but we were determined not to do so. And then they convinced my daughter to take back her complaint and change her statements. But she agreed to them because she did not want her child to grow without his father. And also, she was not financially independent, so she did not have the courage to take a bold step.
Were you okay with it, sir?
Absolutely not. I didn't support her decision at all. But since she is an adult and knows what's best for her, I decided to respect her decision.
Did she, your daughter, go to the in-laws house after that?
Yes, she went after 1 month.
What happened on the morning of 14th April, the day the deceased passed away?
So, like, she had called my wife, and my wife told me that Yashika was crying and all, and we should end the marriage as soon as possible.
Who called you to inform you about the unfortunate incident?
Mr. Sukant Rajput, the neighbor of the Mehras.
That would be it. Thank you.
Cross-examination of witness.
With your permission, can I start? Thank you so much. Okay, so can you tell me the exact amount that they demanded from you initially?
3 days before the marriage, as I stated.
Exact
I'm sorry.
amount.
10 lakhs in cash and gold. Just what they asked for me before 3 days of the marriage.
Okay, so you said 10 lakh cash and gold. So there is gold involved. So is there any documentary record that which proves that you have given them gold? Because there should be some receipt, anything.
Yes, there is, but I can present it in the next hearing as an exhibit.
There is. Why wasn't it presented earlier?
We weren't asked, so I was not aware that we had to present it.
Okay. So any documents to show that you had sell your land in order to...
Of course, so as I told that I sold my land in my village, so it's in the village itself, but in the next hearing I can bring that document.
So there is no documents to prove
There
that
is
there was
documents,
any
there are
money given?
documents, there are documents, and that can be brought in the next hearing.
Okay. So is there any document to prove that you had given the money to Rajiv and not Yashika? Is there any testimony or any document to prove that?
There is no scope of document because I just handed 10 lakhs cash to Rajiv, so there is no
So
scope.
it was a suitcase that you handed to them. What was it?
I handed 10 lakhs in cash.
And then gold? How did you?
I handed that to them.
Without any receipt.
Yes. The receipt I didn't hand the receipt. The receipt I have it
So
separately.
you had the receipt with your name, but you handed the gold. How will they use the gold if you had their receipt with yourself?
They were okay with it, and as I told you that I own a stationery shop and I don't know much about these things. So I'm not very literate. So I did whatever they asked me to do. So.
Okay. So now I would want to say, ask that did they demand dowry after you had given that 10 lakhs cash and gold?
Yes, they did demand for dowry, but I am a middle class man and I couldn't afford to give them dowry. That is why I and my wife tried to negotiate with them, but they never entertained us.
Okay, so what was the amount that they asked subsequently?
10 lakhs again.
Again 10 lakhs?
Yes.
Okay. So which member of the family exactly asked that money to you?
Both my son-in-law and the mother-in-law, Shivani Mehra.
Okay. Why did you marry your middle class girl to the high standard family?
Because I always wanted to give her a happy and a luxurious life, but I couldn't. So I felt that if I get her married to such an influential family, she will be happy.
You didn't realize the differences would make any problem. You didn't. It
No,
didn't
I
cross-
didn't.
No, point noted. Well, also, okay. So why did you not complain about the dowry demand earlier?
So my daughter was threatened continuously by her in-laws that she can be poisoned and she can be even put on fire. So that scared me to a great extent, and the way they were mentally abusing and physically torturing her, I thought that they might carry out this threat as well. So that is why, and they are a very influential family, and if they win the case, then my daughter's life is at stake.
So
I
why
couldn't
did
take the
you
risk.
take your daughter back to your house?
She did not want to go back. Like after she became a mother, she wanted to take care of her child.
Before she became a mother then?
She was pregnant, and she was.
Like before she was pregnant or anything?
I didn't take her back because she wanted to stay there. She did not want to come back, and I
She
couldn't.
wanted to stay in her in-laws. Point to be noted, my lord. One more question. So you complained about the poison. You complained to the police about the poison. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. So in that complaint, there is no mention about dowry. Why didn't you complain about the dowry at that time when the poison was happening?
The same reason I would like to repeat, because they had threatened my daughter and that threat was always in my mind and it scared me to a great extent. And the police did not investigate the complaint properly since Rajiv came from a very high influential family. So I couldn't take much risk.
Point to be noted, my lord. So you were not threatened of the fact that you are complaining about the poison, but you were threatened of the fact that you would complain about the dowry so they would injure your daughter.
Yes.
So she was not threatened, point to be noted, she was not threatened of the fact that she is complaining about the poison, but she was threatened of the fact that if she complained about the dowry, her life will be in danger. Okay. So, any evidence of the negotiation?
What negotiation? Which one?
Point to be noted, my lord.
Which negotiation? I'm just asking because we tried to negotiate earlier and then after the
After the poison negotiation was happened.
no documents. They just came to our house and we spoke verbally. So I can't produce any documents.
So what were the exact terms of the negotiation? Can you please explain?
So as I told earlier that myself and my wife we were in no way ready to take back a police complaint, but then they spoke to Yashika and Yashika agreed to change her statement for the sake of her child because she did not want her child to grow without a father, and since she was a housewife she couldn't raise her child on her own.
So from this can I conclude that you were ready to risk your daughter's life again, so that and your son-in-law's life again, and that grandson. So you were ready to basically risk your grandson, daughter-in-law's life. So daughter's life. Sorry, I'm so sorry. So you were ready to risk your daughter's life, and that is the reason why, even after she consumed poison, and as you're saying that they forced her or evaded her, you sent her back. You were ready to take the risk.
I was never ready to take the risk, as I stated earlier, but it was my daughter's decision, and I cannot. She's an adult after all, and I cannot impose my decision on her. First thing, and second thing is after she went back home, there was only one. My daughter informed my wife about one incident where Rajiv got drunk and started beating me. But after that, the physical abuse completely stopped, although the mental abuse was still there. So we thought that maybe Rajiv is angry, and after some time, the abuse will stop completely. So that is the reason we did what we did.
Okay, so as you said that your daughter is an adult, so was the marriage arranged or love?
Arranged.
So your daughter does not have the liberty to choose her own partner, but she has the liberty.
She agreed for the arranged marriage. We never forced it upon. She agreed. It was with her consent.
Okay. Thank you, madam.
Thank you. Thank you.
Opening statement by the defense. You have to do in that 10 minutes of the time.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, ma'am. Myself, Shagul Dotto. I am the counsel representing the defense side. My client here is Rajiv Mehra. Firstly, sir, I want to seek your permission to firstly clarify some of the facts which was stated earlier by my learned friend from the prosecution side. She has stated the facts, but in reality the facts were not correct. So I first want to state the facts. Do I get the permission? Thank you. So if you kindly come to the memorial of the defense, us, in page number 6, page number 3, Bajrang Singh has given 10 lakhs cash and gold jewelry to Yashika because she had the desire to open a sweet shop. She squandered the whole money and did not open any shop. In the fourth point, frequent fights due to her anger issues. She was a spendthrift. In spite of being asked by her in-laws to not spend so much money, she used to spend. Then sir, Yashika used to take no care of the son, Ajay Mehra. And Shivani Mehra, the grandmother of the child, used to take care of the grandson. Due to the consumption of poison, which was on 17 December 2021, sir, this harmed the reputation of the Mehras. But despite of that, they agreed that after consumption of poison also, they wanted the daughter-in-law, the daughter-in-law to be back because they cared of the daughter, the Bajrang Singh's family, and also main importantly the son, Ajay Mehra. So they let them come. And as there were some negotiations, done between the two families, which there was no mention. I would be mentioning the negotiations in due course of time. Bajrang Singh given money. There were statement by Sanjay Mehra. If you kindly come to the brochure. In the brochure, there are the statement witnesses, 161 CRPC, the statement of witnesses. The statements of Rajiv Mehra and Sanjay Mehra, it was clearly mentioned that Bajrang Singh has given money to Yashika. To Yashika the money was given. And sir, there was a little clarification that my learned friend said that they were argue between the mother-in-law and the daughter-in-law in the morning of 14th April 2022, but no evidence of any of the fight was given through the statements or anything was presented by the prosecution side. Now, sir, ma'am, I would like to proceed with the issues with your permission. Thank you, sir. So, firstly, I would like to tell that through the series of events, I would like to bring up my case. Firstly, I would try to prove the mental element which we are alleging, then the voidable marriage, how this marriage is voidable, and then no dowry was claimed, how we are proving that no dowry was claimed. Then the series of events, spendthrift nature, which the prosecution also mentioned, that I also will be addressing, and then no physical and mental torture by the defense side was there. And at last, through this series of events, how suicide can be justified, I will also be proving. So, firstly, sir, the Yashika Singh's insanity, which lead to her psychotic nature, is due to a very natural phenomenon which happens to everybody. Almost in the as our India is progressing, in many cases we have seen that there is a natural phenomenon of postpartum syndrome, which is affecting the woman after pregnancy. This is very common to mothers after the delivery of the baby. This is whom from beforehand the woman have some psychotic issues. She will be subjected to postpartum syndrome. So due to this, the tendency of consuming poison, like the suicidal tendency, is increased. And this only happened here with Yashika Singh. Like this, we are claiming the mental element of Yashika. Not that we are just claiming insanity. Now, consumption of poison. Sir, how can a sane mother, first of all, so the first point is how can a sane mother, a sane woman who cared of her son, first of all consume poison in the first time when her daughter is like 24-28 months old. Son, 24-28 months old. So, first of all, if they were sane, they would just go to the court and ask for separation, for judicial separation. but they didn't ask. And Bajrang Singh, who was also stating, he also didn't suggested any of the facts that would lead that he has told Yashika to go to the court and ask for judicial separation. There is no claim. Now sir, the complaining nature. Yashika used to complain uselessly on trivial matters which would affect the Maharaj, but he never used to complain about these trivial useless matters, because he was basically, his objective was as a marriage, like it can't be like a marriage which is done can be just like ended with some issues. So it was done that after although some of the subject, baseless arguments and trivial matters every day, Mehra's brain used to be affected, but he didn't complain any time. Now the spendthrift nature, so as Bajrang Singh claims that he had given money. First of all, there is no trace that money has been given. But as he is stating, where is the money now? There is no trace of the evidence that the money has been, we have the money. So the fact that there is no money left proves that the Yashika Singh had spent all the monies. So this can prove that spendthrift nature. And also, being a mother of such an infant child, she didn't care about saving some money for the betterment of the child's future, but she only spent everything. Now, as the postpartum syndrome, which was due to some mental elements which she used to have from early on, was hidden by Bajrang Singh to the Maharaj, proves the fact that if you kindly come to sir, page number 9 of our memorial, sub issues 1, in the end of the page, according to Hindu Marriage Act, section 12, voidable marriage. Any marriage solemnized whether before or after the commencement of this act shall be voidable and may be annulled by a decree of nullity on any of the following grounds, namely, b. that the marriage is in contravention of the conditions specified in clause 2 of section 5. Now section 5 of Hindu Marriage Act defines that a marriage may be solemnized between any two Hindus. I am coming to the section that at the time of the marriage, if it is incapable of giving a valid consent to it in consequence of unsoundness of mind, b. is though capable of giving a valid consent has been suffering from mental disorder of such a kind or to such an extent as to be unfit for marriage. So this proves that this marriage is voidable from the beforehand, as Bajrang Singh hidden the fact of the mental element of Yashika Singh. Now you honor, no dowry was given. Firstly, there is no proper evidence that there was any written complaint by Yashika for her in-laws regarding the claim of dowry. Therefore, no question of applicability of section 2 of Dowry Prohibition Act. Sir, the Maharaj are rich. They have steel business, well-established steel business. They have good reputation in the society. So why for the first time they would do any of these things, claiming dowry and these things? They don't need money. So why would in the first time they will be claiming all these things? Now, Shushila never complained, and my learned friend also pointed out that this doesn't mean that Yashika would also be in the same manner, but the tendency. Here we are questioning the tendency of the families. The tendency of the family is clearly mentioned. I can be good to one and bad to other. Like there should be a tendency. A tendency can always, if the third person will see me, they will be satisfied with my tendency. But here, sir, Shushila have never complained of anything of the dowry demand. So we can't say like that. We can't say. Now, no physical and mental torture. Firstly, in the first report made by the police regarding the consumption of poison, there is no mention. After the consumption of poison, Yashika Singh, Bajrang Singh had complained to the police. There no mention of physical and mental cruelty was given. So why is it? There was no mention of mental, and now they are coming up after so many years. The fact that the child born from Yashika's womb was absolutely. The other fact is, Ajay Mehra, who was born, was absolutely of sound mind. If any physical cruelty was meted to him, to Yashika, that can also be reflected on the birth of the child. But the child is born normal. Marriages were well reputed, so no chance, my lord, there was no chance of this physical cruelty, mental cruelty and dowry demand. Now, our prosecution also mislead the court. I would try to say that the prosecution is saying that in page number 9 and 10 of their memorial, the prosecution memorial, that the neighbor stated that there was verbal abuse. There is no testimony of any witness which is stating the same. There is no testimony given by the police. In the police record, whatever testimony was given, there is no evidence. Now they are also claiming that there was abuse. But according to section, the testimonies which was given, there is huge difference between abuse and fight. In the statements they were given that fight used to happen. The neighbors also claim that this fight used to happen in the Mehra family, but not abuse. Abuse is directly, allegation is directly towards some people. But there was nothing that sort. So this is a baseless. So sir, I would now request you to for the chief examination. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Just a minute, I'll have to. There was a mistake in my end. There is one more witness of the prosecution side. First, they'll examine them. You can cross-question them, and then we'll proceed with your witnesses, defense witnesses. Okay?
The time was not up.
No, the time was not up. They still have time. Yes, they still have 5 minutes. They can. Yes, I apologize for the mistake.
I'm grateful, sir. Grateful, ma'am.
The witness.
Next, I would like to call the mother of the deceased, Uma Devi. It would be a quick thing, I'll just ask a question. Next, can you please identify yourself?
I'm Uma Devi Singh. Yashika was my daughter.
I will ask you simple questions, answer to the point. Was there any dowry asked?
Yes.
There was? By who?
Rajiv Mehra.
Did you give it to them?
Yes.
Did Yashika know about it?
Initially, before the wedding, she didn't. Afterwards, we told her.
Thank you. After marriage, did Yashika come back home?
Yes, she did.
Did you notice anything unusual?
Yes, I did notice that she was very dull. She didn't used to talk a lot and she used to stay aloof. I also noticed abuse marks, physical marks on partially visible body parts.
Did you ask her about that?
Yes, I did.
What did she say?
She said that she was being abused in her in-laws.
What did you do about it?
I was very furious. I told my husband about it, and we also tried to talk to the in-laws, and they didn't talk to us at all.
Okay. On the morning of 14th April, did you have any conversation with Yashika?
Yes, I did.
Can you please elaborate?
I talked to Yashika. She was very, very devastated. She was in a very devastated state, and she was mentally drained by the conversation I had. She told me that her in-laws were actually verbally abusing her and telling her that she doesn't belong here and she should not be here. So that's.
Did they ever ask her that? Did they ever mention that she should die?
Yes, she mentioned this.
After the phone call, what did you do?
I talked to my husband and I told him that we should probably end the marriage as soon as possible.
Where was your grandchild? With whom? For how long?
2 days, he was with me 2 days before.
Notice, sir, I'm just trying to prove my point that Yashika was a very considerate mother. She knew that her child was not safe in the defense house simply because she was facing so many cruelty there. So she was absolutely not certain about the fact that whether her child will also be subjected to it or not, because she was in a constant state of fear that what if something happens to her and what will happen to her child. That's why she made sure that the child is with her mother, who, I would just like to end my class question. During the pregnancy, who paid the money for?
My husband.
And did you ask them to pay?
No,
You did not ask them to pay?
they did not want to pay.
Did you ask?
Yes, but they did not want, so my husband did.
Well, we can take it with the procedure.
Thank you, sir. That's it. Thank you so much.
Cross-examination of witness.
May I start with the permission? Thank you so much. So, can you please mention again who asked for the dowry? Who asked for the dowry?
Rajiv.
But a point to be noted, my lord, but Bajrang Singh said Rajiv Meher and Shivani Meher. Also, did you see the marks?
Yes, sir.
So, what did you do? So, you said that he used to beat your daughter. So, you saw the marks. Did you take her to the hospital or doctor?
No, I didn't. We did a home treatment
You did a home treatment.
in medicine.
Point noted, okay. So, and you, yeah, that's all. That's all.
So I just want to make my last request. I have 3 witnesses planned. If you allow, then I'll go with it. We were not okay, it's fine. No problem, sir. Thank you. I know it. It's fine. Excuse me. It's fine.
Respected Sir, Manu, I would want to bring the witness for the chief examination. Firstly, I want to call Dr. Murli Prasad Sharma. Should I start? Thank you, sir. First question is, sir, can you define the hypovolemic shock to the court?
Hypovolemic shock is an emergency condition in which the body, like if the body loses a lot of blood and other fluids, the heart stops pumping blood to the organs, which causes the organ failures.
Thank you. Point to be noted, my lord. The bluing mark which was present in the thumb.
When a patient comes to a hospital, if he or she is not in the conscious state of giving either physical or verbal consent, then the hospital has some necessary protocols. And in that situation, since Ms. Yashika Singh wasn't in a conscious state to give any consent and none of the family members were present, so the hospital had to take her consent by through a thumb impression, which was through the left thumb in the consent, in the finger consent form. And this blue ink cannot have any other interpretation.
Thank you. What is third degree burn, thermal burns?
Third degree burns are burns which do not hurt, since they destroy the two layers of the skin, and they also destroy nerve endings.
Thank you so much. So I would now want to call up the next witness. The first witness. Thank you so much. Ashish Gujral.
Let them talk first.
So they will cross witness.
Sorry, sir.
I think that will be better.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Good afternoon, sir and ma'am. So, doctor, were there any signs of abuse on the body?
No, there weren't.
And being an expert witness, can you please tell me in how much time does a physical abuse sign completely fades away?
It depends on the severity of the physical abuse. It can take from certain days to certain months.
Can you please specify the
Since there was no physical abuse in this case, I will not like to answer.
point to be noted, Your Honor, sir, that it questions the credibility of the expert witness here. Also, it establishes my fact that the fact that there was no physical injury present on the day of the death does not determine the fact that there was never any physical injury inflicted on her, because the physical injury completely fades away after a certain time, and so anything that happens before that cannot be possibly ruled out. Thank you. That will be it.
So I would like to call up the next witness. Neighbor 1, Ashish Gujral. Thank you for coming. How was your relationship with the man?
It was cordial.
Okay. How was your relationship with Yashika?
I just knew her as my neighbor Rajiv Mehra's wife, so I don't have such a relationship with her.
Okay. Did Rajiv and Yashika ever fight in public? Have you ever witnessed anything like that?
No.
Achha. What is your perception of the relationship of Rajiv Mehra and Yashika Singh?
They guys were just like normal couple in public. Good.
So personally, do you think there was any suspicion of insanity of Yashika? By seeing her, observing her, by being her neighbor?
No, she seemed a bit off, and she never interacted with anyone in the neighborhood also. She seemed also a bit arrogant.
Point to be noted, that one. Mood off. Was it fight or abuse?
It was fight only, what we have heard.
What exactly happened on the afternoon of 14th April 2022?
I was going to buy vegetables. I just heard someone screaming at the Mehra residence. I went close. I saw that it was Yashika burning in the kitchen. I broke the door and covered her with the blanket.
Thank you so much. Sir, before ending up, I would just like to cross that the prosecution and learned friend just pointed out that, thank you so much, thank you. Pointed out that the physical cruelty, about that physical cruelty thing, if like no evidence was, is what is the evidence of any physical cruelty, that thing. So I would just like to say that. So my
Co-speaker will get it. Yeah. So we'll allow them to cross the witness. Please call the witness.
Yes. You mentioned in your chief that you had seen them fighting and you have heard them fighting. Am I correct?
I haven't seen them fighting. There were rumors about it that they used to fight.
Point to be noted, Your Honor. Also, you said that you never had a lot of interactions with Yashika. Am I
Yes.
correct? and still you have very strong views against her. How would you
Strong
explain
views
that?
as in?
You just said that she was
Whatever has-
mood off, she and whatever.
Mood of no. I just said she seemed a bit arrogant, and it's my perception.
Yeah, exactly. So I
Whatever I observed, I'm just saying that.
Point to be noted, Your Honor. Thank you. That will be it.
So I would now like to call up the last witness.
I think we are only allowing 2 witnesses per side.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, sir. Great.
Would you like to cross the first witness that came? You did?
She's done it, yeah.
So there is closing statement by the prosecution as well.
Thank you, Your Honor. The members of the opposing counsel, ladies and gentlemen present here, thank you for your time and attention throughout this trial. We have now come to the conclusion. We have heard both the sides, and now it's time for the judgment. In the meantime, I shall review the case and just establish what the evidence is. So, Your Honor, firstly, we called on our 2 witnesses, and they have testified, and we have established the following facts that I'll be going through. Firstly, Your Honor, that the defense desperately tries to evade their accountability by proving that Yashika was insane. They have mentioned it in the memorial. And I would like to draw your attention to page number 8, last sub-issue 1 paragraph, where they prove it with the following points. They have called her, firstly they've called her psychotic and state that no sane mother would commit suicide when she had a child so young, if she had a child so young. Here clearly, Your Honor, the defense is character assassinating the deceased and questioning the Yashika's integrity as a mother. It is to be noted, Your Honor, that it was Rajiv who did not pay the medical expenses during the time of delivery. And so, he didn't even care to pay for the expenses during delivery. So if the same logic is to be applied, the prosecution declares Rajiv Mehra insane as well. Because as to what kind of father would not be there for his child on the day of the delivery. Secondly, the defense states that Yashika was insane as she used to spend money and not save for her child. Again, it is surprising and funny, Your Honor, that the defense has such huge expectation from the mother Yashika, who is not even working, who is a simple homemaker, and again does not even question the fact that Rajiv Mehra, who has an established business, was not there and did not even pay for the delivery expenses that day. Thirdly, Your Honor, again, the defense expected Yashika to ask for a mutual separation from Rajiv if she was troubled so much. Your Honor, it is to be noted that Yashika had reasons to stay in that house. She wanted to give her marriage a second chance. She had a newborn baby. She had a child. So for the sake of her child, for the sake of giving her marriage a second chance, she had reasons to stay in the house. However, Rajiv Mehra, who is such an influential man, he didn't have any reason. He states that Yashika was insane. So why was he even had the resources to file for a divorce or something, but he didn't. So this is a question, Your Honor, that why didn't he take any step as to filing for a for a divorce? Because he stated that Yashika was insane. Also, Your Honor, Yashika has been subjected to mental and physical cruelty. Defense contends that no physical torture has been inflicted on her. However, as established in the cross-examination, a physical injury only lasts for a certain period of time, and so anything that happens before that cannot be proved in the autopsy report. Also, mental cruelty is also an equally important aspect to establish. The Apex Court has ruled that ill treatment, regular ill treatment, indifference from the part of the husband are all the factors that amount to mental cruelty. And Yashika was subjected to ill treatment every day. There were fights every day. She was never made to be a part of the family. She was always subjected to abuse for not bringing enough dowry. So, Your Honor, and moreover, Bajrang Singh, as stated, he has testified that Yashika used to explain all her ordeals to him, and he has no reason to lie, Your Honor, because the assumption that he is making against the defendant is not
the accusation that he is making against the defendant is not an assumption. It's the only truth that he knows, and that truth is only told by him. It's told to him by his daughter herself. Your Honor, the defendant's only case has been to show that the deceased were insane, to character assassinate her and to call her names without any proof. The reason why she wanted to go back to her marriage was to give her marriage a second chance, and this cannot be a reason, and this cannot be used by the defendants to prove that she went back because there was no torture involved. So the series of facts that I have established illustrate the worst of human behavior. The feeling of greed, selfishness and indifference led to physical and mental suffering of the another, and which eventually led to the loss of life of the woman whose only fault was to get married in that hell house. Therefore, Your Honor, I submit the jury to consider and return a fair verdict and find Rajiv and Shivani Mehra guilty of section 306, 498A and 304B. Thank you so much.
Closing statements by the prosecutor, by the defense.
With your permission, can I start? Thank you so much. So, I would like to, as all the evidence and all the testimonies has been produced in front of the court, I would like to state that the allegation of dowry demand is absolutely false. There is no other third party other than Uma Devi and Bajrang Singh, who are the part of the family, the Singh family. No other evidence, no other documentary evidence, no other testimonies justify that there was an demand of dowry. We have asked the Bajrang Singh, who has been very reluctant to produce any kind of documents related to the money, related to the dowry demand, any conversation, nothing has been produced in front of the court, even when it was asked. Next, as our prosecution has already stated in their opening statement that Bajrang Singh was from a very middle class family and Rajiv Mehra was from a very high class, rich steel manufacturing company. He had a steel manufacturing company. So why would, if they had a mens rea or if they had an intention for taking dowry from their daughter-in-laws, why would they not have a daughter-in-law who is coming from a rich family? Why would they first marry a daughter-in-law who is from a middle-class family and then ask dowry from her? Because if they wanted dowry, they would have targeted a richer family than them. The mens rea is absolutely not established. Also, our prosecution stated that Sushila, who was also a daughter-in-law of the same family, was not subjected to any cruelty. No dowry demands was asked from her, and they said that since Sushila was from a well-reputed family, they could give the dowry. Then why didn't they marry their Rajiv to a well-reputed family as well? Right? Now, there also is no antecedent to prove that Mehra family was a kind of family who were involved in any kind of violence or any kind of violent activities, right? So they had a name and a reputation. Their neighbors also supported them. There was no such allegation to them before. Also, here in the testimonies they said that Yashika was subjected to physical cruelty, and also after the negotiation, the physical cruelty stopped happening. But in the prosecution's opening statement, if you have noticed that she said that in the morning there was physical and mental cruelty meted out to Yashika. Then why there was no proof of any such thing in her autopsy report? Also, also in Uma Devi in her testimonies and in her 161 statement said that that Rajiv was drunk and he had beaten Yashika. Then why there was no such physical mark on her hand? If the beating was so severe, there would have been, and the negotiation and her death was not more than 3 months apart. So I would like to say that the statements made are false and deliberately made to mislead the court and get favorable orders from the court. Also, Yashika, all the suicide attempts
be it poison, be it burning. It happened after Yashika had given her childbirth. And it is an established thing right now, it's a growing trend that postpartum syndrome, female 33% of women who go through postpartum syndrome, they have committed suicide in India. Yashika could be one of them, but since Bajrang Singh and Uma Devi were so emotionally engrossed, they just put any allegation upon them with no documentary or evidence apart from their testimonies. Also, I would like to end my speech by saying that these are false allegations, flawed investigation. No reports are stated, and all the material evidence, for example, the autopsy report, all the substantive evidence proved that there was no physical cruelty meted out to her. Therefore, I would like to pray that the benefit of doubt should be given to the defense, and no innocent shall be convicted unless proven guilty beyond doubt. There are doubt at every sequence in our case, and we should take that into consideration. Thank you so much. I would like all the allegations made to Rajiv and Shivani Mehra to be disposed of, and they should be granted acquittal. Thank you so much.
Okay, so we'd like to thank all participants for a very engaging discussion, presentation, and also to the audience for being so patient. So, thank you. I think with that we can end the ceremony.